All this week, we have been looking back on some of our key conversations with top executives throughout the year. Today, we're looking back at a discussion with O'Lakes CEO Beth Ford, talking about what the company and its farmers face in the coming year and the difficulties they've had to face as a result of the coronavirus. Take a listen.
Farming is an outdoor sport, so it can be too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry. You can be a brilliant farmer, you can still have issues. Well, how are they feeling right now? The pandemic did exacerbate supply chain backup. So I mentioned what happens with food service. Oftentimes, producers, farmers, dairy on the dairy side ship to food service restaurants, processors who make products for food service. Schools have been shut down. So you lost basically 15-20% plus of the market for distribution. You saw backup in meat processing, right? Hogs, cattle. And so what happened was that there was an immediate drop in collapse in commodity prices. As well, there wasn't a lot of international trade because a lot of things were staying here in the United States, especially early in the pandemic. And exports are crucial to profitability for farmers. For instance, on dairy, 1 day out of 7 of production is exported in variety of products. So this was really causing pressure at the farm gate in terms of pricing. Now, how are they feeling right now? Well, we've made it past this particular, the peak point of the pressure. The administration and the Senate and the House did provide funding for farmers, interim payments to make up for this gap. Many will make it to the other side. We're going to see what happens with this next few challenging months, depending on what happens with the pandemic. I have seen grain pricing, so row crop farmers, so beans and corn, have started to strengthen. Bean price up over 10.20, 10.30. Corn price, I saw a 4 number in front of it. And so that's stronger performance for those crops. Those are core crops. And so that's a positive. That's a positive. I'm seeing a little bit more momentum, a little bit stronger performance. For dairy, the food box program that is providing food for underserved communities and for the food insecure has elevated milk price a bit at farm gate, so we're not seeing the same level of bankruptcies at the dairy farm level. So they're feeling a little bit, it's not stable. Let's not say that, and we're in this stable environment, but there are more positive signs than there have been for the last couple of years, especially. Trade has started to pick up in China. We're seeing a lot of shipments, especially for soybeans, for hogs, et cetera, into China.
Are you looking for any more aid to come from the government? We're still waiting for this next stimulus deal to materialize, and when it does, are you hopeful, or do you have reason to believe that there will be some aid in there for our country's farmers?
Well, the administration and I think the House and Senate reallocated some funding to a funding area that it provides funding or support to farmers. As well, support programs or insurance programs will be critical. So the farmer has to sign up for insurance, and same thing from the dairy for the dairy side. So are we looking for support? Well, we're going to see. I mentioned the food box program. Actually, funding had run out for that food box program, but it looks like they're re-upping for maybe another $1 billion is what we're hearing. Do I expect we're going to see something? Well, we all don't know what's going to happen in that round 4. My government affairs team, and certainly we are connected through our government affairs team into both the administration, the House, and the Senate to get a view and then advocate appropriately for some level of gap payments for farmers as we move through this pandemic.
Something that farmers have had to deal with even pre-pandemic has been access to connectivity and to the internet, and the pandemic has really just exacerbated that need. I know that you are a huge proponent for internet access in rural areas. You've backed legislation regarding this. Where do things stand right now, and what else can the public and private sector do and come together to help aid the farmers?
Thank you for phrasing it that way. This is about coming together. 18 million plus Americans lack access to broadband. The majority of them are in rural communities. 1 in 4 farmers or rural community citizens lack access to broadband. This has exacerbated, or this has highlighted this digital divide that we have. You know, oftentimes on a farm, the teachers are having to drive out with this paper homework so these kids can do homework because you don't have enough technology on the farm, or you got to run farm equipment. I mean, it's really unacceptable. And this isn't a rural issue. This is an American issue. Food security is a national security issue. We see this front and center, right? We all see this. We're working from home. We're connecting with doctors from home. And there's a shortage of 40,000 doctors in rural America. There's a lack of hospitals, and now we see COVID coming into these areas. So what are we doing? We are advocating. We've started a coalition called the American Connection Project. We've got over 120 other companies, Microsoft, Cargill, Polaris Tractor Supply, any number of company partners who also see this as a need. We must fix this, this lack of access to broadband. It needs to be like a 1930s rural electric initiative going across the country.
There you go, O'Lakes CEO Beth Ford there talking about the problems in the farming sector.